All right, we are back, and I'm extremely excited as we continue our next round of interviews and being stronger together and bringing some impactful educators to you. This time, we are getting ready for the Utah Coalition for Educational Technology. Wow, it's going to be my first time at this event, and it's the first time they do a combination event with the Utah Librarian Association. So we were really excited. This is our first interview. We've got about 12 leading up over the next 2 weeks, and it's really exciting because I get to bring in an old friend from Texas. As we supposedly met, but I'm sure we did at a Learn Fest down in Austin. And I know she can hear. So when you come on, one of the things I was just told to ask from a friend of ours is go Shaps. I don't even know what that is, but we're going to find out real soon. So I want to welcome in Carolyn Foote from Austin, Texas.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Nice to see you. And first of all, tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey into education.
Sure. So my name is Carolyn Foote, and I have been a English teacher and then a longtime librarian for 29 years in a suburb outside of Austin, Texas. And go Chaps, that's our school.
Okay.
And then after what I call it is rewired, not retired. I've been part of a coalition of librarians in Texas fighting against censorship and book banning and supporting librarians, authors, teachers, students in trying to keep access to learning materials.
That's awesome. So not retired, but rewired, did you say? All right. I like that. And in this next stage, tell us about your, excitement or even your entry into this event in Salt Lake City.
Sure. So I did I was part of a keynote at South by Southwest EDU, and Matthew Winters was there and heard the keynote along with a NBC reporter and an author, or two NBC reporters who did the podcast South Lake. And we were part of a keynote at South by Southwest. And he was in the audience, I guess, and heard us.
Okay.
Felt like this was a perfect opportunity to share information about intellectual freedom and information literacy and AI and how we be wise monitors of censorship and everything else. So that's what I'm going to be there for.
Awesome. And as part of, the big event, bringing in the Coalition for Educational Technology with the Utah Educational Library and Media Association, what is going to be some of the themes? And obviously, don't give it away. We want to get there and be inspired. But the keynote that you're going to be delivering, like what has brought you to build this one, and you're going to actually co-present?
Yes, I'm co-presenting with Becky Calzada. We co-founded, along with a few other librarians, a group called Freedom Fighters, FREADOM Fighters in Texas 2.5 years ago. And our message is really about students and that they deserve a voice and access to learning materials that represent their own lives and that they can connect with and where they can learn empathy for the world. And this is really something that connects with classroom teachers, with librarians, administrators, but also really thinking about as we combine that sort of information literacy with the idea of technology and how technology can help or hurt misinformation. It can help or hurt efforts to limit access or provide access. And so we're blending all those themes together and really trying to give people some tools, because Utah is in the process of passing or about to pass several bills about curriculum and libraries in Utah. And so we want to help people be prepared for how to approach that in a mindful way.
Awesome. And I just want to check real quick. If you look below, is that the website, HTX
Yes,
Freedom Fighters.
Texas Freedom Fighters.
All
Yep.
right, so make sure to check that out. And I just quickly, came about that. So where did that start? Like, how did that even come about? Where, I have a great friend up in Maine, Andy Wallace, who's, librarian at heart. He's a tech director as well. And you probably met him at one of
Yeah.
the Learn Fests as well, and is just very passionate about his work. And I'm always inspired by some of the work that he does. So how did you get a group of your peers together and say, this is something we want to move forward, especially where it could be controversial?
Well, this is a great tribute to the power of a PLN, Personal Learning
Mhm.
Network. Several of us had worked across the state for years doing presentations together, even though we lived in different parts of the state, and had met at conferences. And when we started hearing rumblings in Texas from our governor and a state representative about materials in libraries specifically, and kind of implying that librarians were, doing something surreptitious, we really wanted to have a voice in speaking back. So we started off with social media, of course, and
Mhm.
we thought, well, this is a one-time thing. We'll do a Twitter takeover of the Texas legislative hashtag, and we secretly mobilized people behind the scenes to respond on November 4th, 2 years ago, and share diverse books that mattered to them. And to our
Okay.
amazement, 13,000 tweets went out that day, and we trended 6 on Twitter most of the day, and we were like shocked. And we were just using personal Twitter accounts and all of that. And we realized there was a real hunger for people to um, speak positive stories about libraries and about educators. And so we created a website that you had there at the bottom with resources for
Mhm.
community members, librarians, to how to write a letter to a school board, what do
Mhm.
librarians do anyway, things for students to use. And then we created a Twitter account, um, and we had no idea we would still be doing this 3 years later. Really, it's like we didn't ever, in our wildest dreams, envision it getting to this point. But we're passionate about libraries. We're passionate about students and their voices, and that's what keeps us going, because this is all volunteer 24/7 effort.
Awesome. And shameless plug, and then we're going to move on. I literally have this book here. A great friend of mine who's an X Factor author just wrote this book, Mackenzie and the Secret Library
Um,
of Banned Books.
no,
So
I have
it's
to
a
get
good friend of mine. I just tweeted out again. We just put it out. Super shameless plug, but I didn't know it was even going to go that direction, and I'm psyched to hear that, and then psyched to hear you in Utah. So you're doing the keynote on Tuesday, first day or the second day?
second day,
So
second day.
on Wednesday, I
Yes.
keep getting it, like, get my days off because I keep thinking it starts on Monday, but it starts on Tuesday. But I'm going to be there for Tech and Learning on Monday. So you also mentioned you were doing other sessions.
Yes, we're also doing a panel more specifically on how to respond to censorship in particular. So our keynote will be for everyone. And, whether you're a teacher in the classroom, you're ed tech, you're a librarian, but this panel will be more for people that are directly trying to do something about or are facing censorship in their school district and really need some help and resources.
Okay, so for those who are going to the event, what can they expect, or when they look through the menu of choices, like, I'm going to go to that one. Like, what would you be covering, and what are some of the topics? Because this is all new for me.
Yeah. So in the panel, I mean, it will be a panel of us who have different kinds of jobs. So I think everybody will be offering their own sort of resources, but um, it's very, and I think ed tech people get this from a internet filtering side, like
Hmm.
when you're faced with maybe something slips through a filter and suddenly you're like the brunt of a bunch of public feedback and upset people. It's isolating, it's very stressful. And so we want to like offer suggestions to people on, how to be professional, how to respond,
Hmm.
how to take care of yourself in the process of a stressful situation. what things work well. And so people feel a little more prepared. And, in a lot of states, the laws are really confusing, and the laws in Utah, the one just passed, one's may get signed this week. People are still trying to figure them out. And so sort of that limbo state, it's hard to be into. So hopefully we'll get to talk about that on the panel.
That's awesome. So I know for me, I love to go to the events, to be a part of them, as you were, I know a part of many events as well. And now keynote at the Utah event, and had an event right in the school you used to work at. But now as a learner, what are some of the things that you are looking forward to in maybe sessions, maybe on the show floor? What are some of the things that you're really getting excited for?
Well, I'm just excited to be in Utah and connect with Utah educators and librarians, because while we're far apart geographically, our states have some things in common. We have really rural areas and really, uh, you know, isolated parts of the state, and then we have big urban areas. And so I think there's some common connections we can make. And then I'm excited to see some of my colleagues. Carl Hooker, actually,
Yeah.
he's presenting. We worked together for many years. And so
Okay.
telling him jokingly, we obviously have to go all the way to Utah to see each other
Right.
now that we both left the district. So, but some of my ed tech friends, as well as library colleagues, will be there. And so I'm really excited for those connections and meetings.
That's great. And you said you were going for a Future Ready event too, as well.
I
The
guess it was a tech learning event. I'm gonna be
Okay,
there on Monday for the event on.
okay. Oh, that's awesome. So I'll get to see
Yeah,
you shoot
yeah.
for that as well. And so I guess another question I have for you. So I'm a district administrator. I'm a assistant superintendent in New Bedford, and a lot of times we're looking at, do we close libraries to save positions, or how are we going to utilize the books now that we all have Chromebooks? What's your message to district leaders like myself, or in Utah, or back in your home state of Texas? Like, tell us why it's important to not do those things.
Well, I'm not gonna miss this opportunity for sure.
Well, that's why I teed it up for you. Come on.
So I think that the presence of a librarian as a staff member is so important, because when you think about a school as an ecosystem,
Hmm.
there's no one else other really than the principal that
Right.
sees every teacher in the building, that knows the curriculum they're working on, that can make those connections between departments, between people, and also really offer that instructional support to teachers. Um,
Sure.
so it's a very unique role for the staff that we play. But also, libraries are so important with literacy, because so many kids
Yes.
don't have books in the home. And although we like technology, you can think about, do you want to read a whole book on a Chromebook?
Yeah.
No. Like,
Right.
ebooks are really more popular for the most part with adults and
True.
adult readers. And I know from being a librarian, we had ebooks, and students would say, well, I'll just wait till the print book comes back.
Right.
We had iPads, which are a little easier to read books on than a Chromebook. Um, so there's something about having that print book. But librarians are cheerleaders for reading and books. And, if you're trying to have literacy in your school, don't you want a cheerleader for literacy who reads
Absolutely.
books, loves kids, loves reading, and really keeps kids excited about that? So it's not a chore, it's something they love, because nothing enriches their education more than being a good reader.
Love it. Well, thank you for coming on. I do have one more question for you, but for those of you watching or tuning in, make sure to check out the Utah Coalition for Educational Technology. Their handle is at UCET. And this is, as I learned earlier today, it is a joint event with the Utah Educational Library Media Association. And they, this is their Twitter. So make sure to, or X, make sure to follow all of the great work as we lead up the next 2 weeks. And then, of course, on March 19th and 20th, Tune in on the 20th morning. You'll see all of Carolyn's great keynote. We'll be tweeting that out or posting that out, and we look forward to all of that. But before I get you out of here, one of the things that you've talked a lot about weaved into your work, because you've talked about collaboration, you've talked about your co-presenter, you talked about the work you do with the librarians in Texas with the freedom fighters. What does Stronger Together mean to you?
Well, education is really hard.
Yes.
Helping kids learn is hard. Being an educator is hard, especially the last few years, it's been hard. And so we really need each other. We need to rely on each other, and we need to see how we're all part of this ecosystem together
For
to
sure.
help build an education that's meaningful to our kids and our families. And so that's what it means to me. I was always kind of half in the ed tech world, librarian, because I had interest in both areas, and there's a lot of connections between those worlds, and we need to just keep them strong because we can really support one another. And so that way we better support the families and their kids.
Awesome. And to follow Carolyn, her handles right there on the library at Techno Library. That's awesome. And I look forward to seeing you in Salt Lake City, and you'll get to rip on your fellow colleague and Carl Hooker. He'll be there as well on Monday. We both actually land around 2:00. So really excited. Tech and Learning. Have you been to a Tech and Learning event before?
Yes, I used to speak at the one in Austin.
The Austin. I love the Austin one in September. It's one of my favorites for sure. So Carolyn, thanks for tuning in, and for all of you watching or watching live or watching on replay, make sure to continue to tune in, hear from all the wonderful presenters at this event in Salt Lake City coming up in about 3 weeks, 19 days actually, as of tomorrow. It kicks off on March 19th. So Carolyn, have a great day. And for those of you out there watching, continue to put we over me as we build those stronger together connections.
Thanks.